I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey, you guys, welcome back to another episode of News du Jour. Happy Wednesday. So to start today off, we have two actually pretty tragic but important crime stories to go over. So buckle your seatbelts, my dears. It's going to be a bumpy ride. So first up, Canada stabbings. So I really want to encourage you guys in the wake of this to listen to our MMIW episodes that we put out for my maternity leave series, because it's super important to understand the context of crimes that go on a reservation or against Indigenous communities in North America, really globally. But anywho, that will shed some more light on this exact incident, even though it looks like this was probably committed by people from within the community. Anyway, it looks like there was a coordinated attack against the Indigenous community in Canada. Two brothers seem to have conspired to stab 19 people across 13 different locations, which is kind of insane, in the Canadian area of Saskatchewan, killing 10 of those people, 11 if you count one of the perpetrators. Their motive is still unknown. One of the brothers has since been found dead, but it doesn't seem that his wounds were self-inflicted, according to police. His brother remains at large and is likely still dangerous. It seemed that some of these deaths and murders were targeted, while others seemed that they were at random. And this, again, is all according to police. I don't know exactly why they feel this way, but this is what's being largely reported. The local police are doing everything they can, though, to find Miles Sanderson, the remaining suspect who has a long criminal record. They are having local residents shelter at home as much as they can. Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, came out condemning the attacks, saying, quote, "This kind of violence, or any kind of violence, has no place in our country," end quote. We'll definitely keep you guys posted on this unfolding story, but you can also follow at Evan J. Bray. That's spelled at EVANJBRAY, and he is the Regina Chief of Police up in Canada, and he's updating his Twitter account with more information as it becomes available. So stay safe out there, Canadian friends. We are thinking of this community at this time. And next up, our second crime story for today, Eliza Fletcher. So if you haven't heard by now, a teacher and heiress, Eliza Fletcher, was abducted while out on an early morning run this past week. And unfortunately, this scary story came to a tragic end. Her body was discovered after a 3-day search nearby the location of her abduction. They used dogs, ATVs, and even aircraft to search for the missing woman. There was video footage of her abduction, and thus the case kind of garnered this national media attention pretty quickly. The footage shows her running along, and then all of a sudden, a large black SUV pulls up out of nowhere, and she is pulled into it, and then it quickly drives off. a man has been arrested in the case because his DNA was found on sandals located nearby the body. This man had been released from prison back in 2020 for a completely different kidnapping. And he actually served 20 years for that crime, which was the kidnapping of a pretty high-profile individual, a prominent Memphis attorney who had actually worked with Fletcher's uncle. So it looks like he may operate some type of kidnapping for hire service or have something against that particular family. The two kidnappings happened in a vastly similar way too, making it seem even more likely that they had the same perpetrator. Eliza was a loving mother of two. Her father was a very successful businessman in the area and a major philanthropist. The police are investigating this from many angles, and if there are any major updates to this case, we'll be sure to let you know. We're keeping her family in our thoughts. And then lastly, for today, we are going to go over a intense speech from President Biden with the midterms in mind. So this speech actually happened a few days ago, but I wanted to circle back to it because I actually think it was pretty interesting. Labor Day is obviously seen as the end of summer and thus the beginning of fall, which in the political realm means one thing: election season. With the midterms right around the corner, you can be sure that Biden's speech was timed to perfection in a careful dance of language and innuendo. These things are never accidental, and this speech, it was aggressive, especially for let's all get along Biden. Biden implied symbolism with his choice of location, Philadelphia, the place where democracy was born, as the backdrop for this dramatic speech. In this speech, he directly called out President Trump as a threat to American democracy, and really, democracy around the world. He implored his Republican colleagues to split ways from President Trump and let him drift off unmoored by the Republican Party. He made sure to draw a stark distinction between Republicans that he called MAGA Republicans and more moderate leaders. And it seems in a way that he was trying to give these more moderate leaders an out. He said, quote, "Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. I know, because I have been able to work with these mainstream Republicans. But there is no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to our country." End quote. See what I mean here? He was not mincing words. We know that there is intelligence data out there to back up what the president is saying in terms of an actual physical threat, but I think it's interesting that he didn't bring that up. He relied solely on an appeal to the heart. Perhaps he didn't want MAGA supporters to take further aim at institutions like the FBI and the CIA, but he did choose, actually, to have Marines flanking him as he gave his speech. And again, decisions such as these are never an accident in the political world. He was carefully reminding his audience that he has the force of the U.S. military at his command. He ended his speech saying, quote, "And if we do our duty in 2022 and beyond, then ages still to come will say, all of us here, we kept the faith. We preserved democracy. We heeded our words. We heeded not our worst instincts, but our better angels. We proved that for all its imperfections, America is still the beacon to the world, an ideal to be realized, a promise to be kept. There is nothing more important, nothing more sacred, nothing more American. And that's our soul. That's who we truly are. And that's who we always must be. End quote. Super interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed this closer look at his speech. And that is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "I've grown most not from victories, but from setbacks. If winning is God's reward, then losing is how he teaches us." If you enjoyed this episode, please consider becoming a patron of our podcast. For $7.99 a month, you can unlock tons of perks like breaking news text messages so that you're never out of the loop. Tons of bonus episodes are already up there ready for you to binge, and a discussion board full of networking opportunities and much more. Go to www.patreon.com/sugarfreemedia today to become a patron. This is the best way to support our show. Our patrons make News du Jour possible. But a couple other ways to support our podcast are rate and review on whatever podcast platform you use to listen, share on your social media, you have influence, tell your friends, family, and colleagues that you love News du Jour and why you listen. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram, just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok, and sugarfree_media on Twitter. We also have a weekend newsletter called Dreamers Digest that's full of dreamy content recommendations for your weekend and a life update from yours truly. Sign up today on our website, www.sugarfreemedia.co. Our music is by Joey Lavoie and Nicholas Foster. Our cover art is by Hannah Pierce Photography. Our Sugar Free Media logo is by Catherine Jezik Designs. Any twinkling or little footsteps you might hear in the background are by my dog, Rhett. He's a rescue pup and always records with me. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from